Good morning, UUSS. Whether you are here in person or on Zoom, it is so good to have you here. If you would rise in body or spirit to proclaim "Wake Now, My Senses," number 298. Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Good morning, lovely humans. Welcome to our Sunday service. I am Lisa Bunker, your lay preacher today, serving alongside worship associate Don Heubner, who is also my sweetie and spouse, and Irina at the piano, and I think young Zach might be here. There you are. Are you ready to read? Are we good? Excellent. And young Zach doing a reading. And Anthony and the choir are also part of today's service. But no reverends. We have no reverends up here at all. I feel like we should do something while they're gone. Maybe redecorate or adopt a creed or something. Anyway, what I will do is I'm offering you a sermon today arising out of various of my geeky enthusiasms, including music, writing, gender, and math, but please don't be alarmed. There's no esoteric equations or anything. The title of the sermon is 1-2 Infinite Fractal Beauty. Whether you are here in person or participating online, we are so glad you are here. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we welcome you. The mission of our congregation says, we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. Towards this end, we acknowledge that UUSS exists on the occupied ancestral territory of the Nisenan, Southern Maidu, and Miwok peoples. We wish to pay our respects to their ancestors, elders, and relatives, and to affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. If you're on Zoom, make sure to click on the link in the chat to view the order of service. There are so many ways to connect to this vibrant community. Each week we have tables in the Welcome Hall where you can get connected and fill out a newcomer's form to receive our weekly message. You can also do so online. Each week the blue sheet, somebody wave a blue sheet, and weekly message serve as a guide to our various programs. On Zoom, you're invited to stay after the chat in breakout rooms to get to know one another. Here in person, we will have coffee, tea, and opportunities to meet and greet out on the patio. Please make sure to mark your calendars for the congregational meeting next Sunday, October 22nd, after the service. You will hear updates from our leaders, a presentation of the nominees for our 2024 Community Partners, and the announcement of the Unsung Hero Award. All are welcome. Our biggest fundraiser of the year, the Magic of Community Auction and Dinner, will be held November 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. here at UUSS. Tickets are on sale and going fast for the November 4th auction. In fact, I just got this word the other day. We're past the 50% sold milestone on ticket sales. Yay. Tickets are available online for $30, and bidding for over 100 items will begin on October 21st. Childcare will be provided by our staff with a movie and pizza, and it's free, but you're requested to register in advance. If you submitted an item online but haven't received a confirmation email, please let the committee know as soon as possible so that it can be entered. We are still looking for a few more theme baskets for our Night of raffle, as well as volunteers for tasks both before and during the event. To learn more, please visit the auction table during coffee hour. And finally, please take a moment now to silence any devices you have that could make noises during the service. And come, let us enter into this place of sanctuary and worship together.
Our chalice lighter today is Tara, and the words for our chalice lighting were written by Summer Albayati, called A Chalice Lighting for Liminal Times. In betwixt and in between, we move in the liminal spaces that show shades of what can become, what can be. We light this chalice as a symbol of courage to move into that time, of this and that, and not this, and not that, with patience and faith and love and hope, like the sun that moves in between rising and setting, reminding us that beauty resounds in betwixt and in between. The flame is in betwixt and in between.
In that in-between, we invite all those involved in RE, both kids and adults, to gradually make their way in between buildings and out to continue the service as we lead you in singing your song. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other one. One foot, and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other one. One foot, lead with love.
Now is the time for joys and sorrows. Please join me in sending thoughts and prayers to Marilyn Reynolds, who had surgery unexpectedly Tuesday night, and then, after a few days of apparent recovery, complications. Marilyn is with her family. We are holding her in our hearts. Gina Guarneri asks for prayers for her sister Patrice and brother Ed, both of whom are struggling with illness. And our thoughts turn to the Middle East, to the horror and heartbreak of a conflict to which there seems no good answer, no path that circumvents the suffering of innocent people. We hold those who need our thoughts and wishes in our minds, and we allow space for pleasure, even when there is so much pain. May we hold our hearts open to the joys and sorrows of this collective community and of our larger world. Our prayer is called Boundaries by Lynn Unger and will be followed by a moment of silence. The universe does not revolve around you. The stars and planets spinning through the ballroom of space dance with one another quite outside of your small life. You cannot hold gravity or seasons. Even air and water inevitably evade your grasp. Why not then let go? You could move through time like a fish through water, neither restless nor ceasing, absorbed in and absorbing the native element. Why pretend you can do otherwise? The world comes in at every pore, mixes in your blood, before breath releases you out into the world again. Did you think the fragile boundary of your skin could build a wall? Listen, every molecule is humming its own particular pitch. Of course, you are a symphony. Whose tune do you think the planets are singing as they dance? Amen.
Is this going to be okay for you? Okay.
This is an excerpt from Lisa's 2017 middle grade novel, Felix Is. Felix is a 13-year-old boy fused with a fourth-dimensional alien. In this scene, a complicated medical device called the apparatus is being tested. Felix is inside the apparatus and has to hold absolutely still, and as time goes on, he has a cosmic vision. First, I start thinking about how my body is totally encased by the apparatus, and right at the skin level, and then how the apparatus is encased around in the air around it, atom to atom, and then how the air in the cubicle chamber is encased in the walls, which are thick metal and concrete. Then I think about how if you were made of neutrinos, you could pass through the walls, and you would come to solid rock, except in the straight up direction, where you could break through quickly to the air of the atmosphere, but sideways and especially down there is the rock of the planet, and how if you went down far enough, you would get to where the rock is molten and swirling. Then I zoom out even more so I can see the whole sphere of the planet, ginormous, the tiny cube of the chamber hollowed out right under the surface in one place. And inside that, the sphere of the apparatus, inside that exact human shape of me. Then I go swooping down inside myself and think about the skin and molecule and muscles and bones, and then the cells they are made of. And then all of the bits and pieces inside the cells, the DNA and whatever. And then I zoom in on on one DNA molecule until I'm focusing on its single atoms. And then the protons and neutrons and electrons. And hey, school turns out to be good for something. It gives you names for the parts of your hallucinations. I don't know anything about subatomic particles except having heard they exist. So then, like a roller coaster hitting the bottom of a big hill and then swooping up again, I go flying all the way back out. Atoms, molecules, cells, body, apparatus, air, chamber, planet, and then on. Atmosphere, space, more space, huge, vast, limitless expanses of space. Other planets, sun, stars, galaxies, all whipping by until I can't think any bigger. What's past the biggest you can think? And then swooping back in again, even faster. One long, incredible fall through the human shape of me, and this time down past where I don't know how to go any smaller, and I find myself somehow looping back around to out past too big again, so that everything seems to fit inside the smallest place inside me, and vice versa. And then for a while, I'm not sure if I'm inside the universe or the universe is inside me. The only thing that seems for sure is that somewhere in all this, all the dancing around of whatever it is that dances, there's the human shape of me, either everything inside of it or it inside of everything, somehow, don't ask me how, but both at the same time. Then I feel a hand touching my face and hear Dr. Yoon's voice saying, "Felix, wake up."
I'd like to invite everyone to rise in body or spirit as we sing 10:03, Where Do We Come From? We will sing together to begin all the way through each of the 4 parts, and then each section of the choir will lead each section of the congregation in singing it as a round. Please join us. All together. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are Group we 1, going? Beginning. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from?
Mystery,
What are we?
life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Where
Nicely done. Generosity is a spiritual practice. As a congregation, we cultivate this practice by giving away half of our offering donations from every service to one of 12 community partner organizations. Starting October 23rd, members of this congregation will be able to vote online to choose our community partners for 2024. You can find out more about this at the congregational meeting next week after the service. For the month of October, our community partner is the Native American Health Center, which is committed to enhancing quality of life by providing culturally competent, holistic, and patient-centered continuum of care. There are no tribal or ethnic requirements to receive care at the center, which plays a major role as part of the safety net in the Sacramento area, where Medi-Cal benefits leave many people with little or no access to mainstream health care. You can learn more at the center's website. Please give generously to support this important program, and thank you for your support to both UUSS and our community partner. The morning's offering will now be given and received. As the ushers bring up our offering, please join in reciting our unison response. May generosity bless our world. May gratitude nourish our spirits.
A cloud is made of billows upon billows upon billows that look like clouds. As you come closer to a cloud, you don't get something smooth, but irregularities on a smaller scale. Those were words of Benoit Mandelbrot, a Polish-born mathematician who lived from 1924 to 2010. He is famous for coining the word fractal in the mid-1970s. A fractal is any natural or mathematical system which features similar patterns on many different scales. Examples of fractals in nature would include the cloud, in Dr. Mandelbrot's quote from a moment ago, or a fern leaf, or the forks and subforks of a lightning bolt, or the splay of tree limbs against the sky, or broccoli. Fractals in nature are by definition finite. If you zoom in closer to a piece of broccoli, after a while you don't see smaller florets and subflorets anymore, but individual broccoli cells and the molecules that they're made of, and so on. And if you zoom back out, once you get back past a big full head of broccoli, you run out of layers in that direction too. In the natural world, whichever way you go, sooner or later you run out of layers. For a taste of the infinite, we need to switch over to the world of math. If you don't have a math brain, please don't worry. This is not about decimals or division or algebra. It's about intuitively graspable, gorgeous patterns. This morning, I would like to offer you two different fractal models of the permeable border between supposed opposites, such as masculinity and femininity, or the finite and the infinite, and then try to draw some spiritually useful conclusions from these models about our lives in the universe. Our first fractal plaything is that symbol there, third flag in from the left, the yin-yang symbol. As you can see, it is a circle made up of two identically shaped regions. One region is generally drawn as black, the other is white, and then the small circle in each half is filled in with the opposite color. In Chinese philosophy, yin and yang are words for how, in the natural world, supposedly opposite or contrary forces are actually complementary, interconnected, and interdependent, and for that, how they give rise to each other as they interrelate to one another. Each region of this circle represents one half of many dualities: dark and light, feminine, masculine, moon, sun, earth, heaven, spirit, form. And the idea of the opposite color spot in the middle of each region is that in each duality, something of each principle or quality appears in its opposite. But that's not the most fun you can have with this symbol because of the potential here for fractal play. Consider, the overall symbol is a circle, but it contains two smaller circles. So, why not put a small copy of the overall symbol in each of the two small circles? And then smaller circles inside those. Go ahead and start. And smaller circle inside those. And so on and on forever. But that's not all. This infinitely nested fractal design could also just as easily build outwards. The symbol overall is one big circle, so why not make it one of the smaller circles inside a bigger symbol? And then that one in the small circles inside even a bigger symbol, and so on, also forever. It never ends in either direction, and we begin to see that when we go looking for the hard, clear line between supposed opposites, we find only interconnection and intermingling that never end. On a personal note, this infinite yin-yang zoom is as good a graphic representation as I could think of of the reason that I decided this past summer to claim non-binary identity in the world and start using they, them pronouns. Since going through gender transition 15 years ago, it has seemed more and more clear to me that when it comes to gender, all humans are at least a little bit mixy, and I myself certainly am, and that my truest life is one that rejects all the old rules about what one is or is not allowed to do based on gendered labels. As a fractally dancing, non-binary person, I get to navigate a middle path, to simply be, to freely draw on all my natural strengths. It is such an empowering freedom. One benefit of breaking free from old binaries is the opportunity it offers for rule-bending choices in art. The Rachmaninoff G minor prelude Irina so kindly agreed to play for you, nailed it, wonderful, is one example that I love. The outer sections are martial, masculine, the intersection is lyrical, lush, feminine. And for a bonus, in that middle section, Rachmaninoff wrote a secret third melody. You heard it, I think, that emerges from the cascading arpeggios. It's played mostly by the thumb and the first finger of both hands. In a piece that artfully combines feminine and masculine elements, that feels to me like the extra step, a fractal gesture towards infinity. It's the third secret thing. Likewise, with the hymn the choir sang earlier, Anthony very kindly agreed to indulge my tinkering with that traditional hymn tune. So what you heard was the first verse as written, the second verse with the voices switched, high for low and low for high, and the third verse with the voices switched and flipped upside down. Awareness of the fractal interconnectedness of supposed opposites invites artistic play. And before we go on to our second example, one more thing intrigues me about our fractal yin-yang journey. It's the sense of a loop. Is there actually any difference between diving down into and rising up out of? They both go on forever, and what we see in both cases is the same. The smallest part contains the whole. The whole is nothing but the smallest part. Inside and outside, in a way, become meaningless. If we map this insight onto human experience, suddenly we become somehow both nothing and everything at the same time. As in the reading earlier from my novel Felix Is, we disappear, but we also contain multitudes. Our second fractal plaything is no doubt the most famous fractal ever, and the other thing Dr. Mandelbrot is famous for, besides inventing the word fractal, it's named for him. It's called the Mandelbrot set. There it is. Isn't that a remarkable shape? I find it artistic. It has always existed, but it remained undiscovered until we developed sufficient computing power to render it, which happened first in the late 1970s. It was an exquisite secret the universe held until we were ready to discover it. So what are we looking at here? In layperson's term, every point on this plane represents a certain kind of number called a complex number. And what you do is you take the number that's related to each point and you feed it into a simple math machine. And the math machine spits out a new number. And you put that number back in the machine and get a new number, and you just keep doing that over and over and over again. And one of two things happens. Either the numbers that you're getting settle down into a repeating pattern that stays below a certain finite limit, in which case the point you started with is inside the set, in the middle black area. Or, after a while, the numbers that are being spit out by the math machine go above a certain limit, and they get bigger and bigger, and they go shooting off into infinity, and that point is outside the set. So what we can call this, or we can see here, is a graphic image, a picture of the border between the finite, the central section, and the infinite, the outside area. But here's the really cool thing. If, for example, you decided you were curious to see the exact shape of the line between the finite and the infinite, and if you started zooming in, you discover that there is no line. The closer you look, the more complex the border between the regions turns out to be. And the coolest thing of all is that variations of the same shape keep showing up over and over again. It's a fractal. You can zoom in forever, and you'll just keep seeing different variations of the same shapes, and you never reach a clear border between the finite and the infinite. We're still not done. Aw. For me, this is another possible picture, like our yin-yang zoom before, of how you might think two things are opposites and clearly separate, finite and infinite, self and cosmos. But when you look closer, you realize that in between them is not a simple line, but a lacy scrollwork of intertanglement, a gorgeous, deep dance. It's the spiritual equivalent of the freedom from labels that comes from claiming a non-binary gender identity. So today I offer you the Mandelbrot set as a grand, math-geeky metaphor for mortal life in an infinite universe. With regard to self and creation, these pretty patterns invite us to see ourselves as persistent little eddies in our particular patch of a huge, infinite swirling. Then, with regard to self and other selves, when my swirl touches your swirl, that's human connection. And if we pick up bits and pieces of each other's fractal patterns, that's communication and teaching and learning. And if we get more entangled than that, really start mixing it up, that's empathy and friendship. And if we let go and open up all the way, if we begin swirling together as far as we can see and feel in all directions, that's love. Another detail that gives me joy, because it's a fractal, scale doesn't matter. Little swirls and big swirls, they all contain variations of the whole. When 1 million people get together in March, that matters. But when we perform an act of kindness to a stranger, that also matters. When a single human makes art that comforts or teaches or inspires another single human, that matters. One thing it seems to me that this model doesn't give us is a guarantee of the eternal survival of our essences when we die. Instead, there's a more complex comfort to be taken in the idea that when the swirls we made, to be taken in the idea that the swirls we made echo for a while, that they linger within all the swirls we came from and those we intertangled with and those that come after us. I've been thinking a lot in recent years about fundamentalism, really trying to understand human minds that commit to the idea that they have figured out the one true path to salvation. Looking through the lens of the Mandelbrot set, I see these fundamentalist ways of thinking as saying, no lacy borders, no infinite spirals for me. I've got the perfect circle. I've got the perfect straight line. I see a number of problems with that, but one of the biggest is that with circles, you always have insides and outsides. And with lines, there's always this side and that side. And then once you have sides, it's only a small step from exclusion, from that to exclusion, and from exclusion to feeling superior, and another step from feeling superior to seeing others as less than human. And from seeing others as less than human follows prejudice, hate, oppression, totalitarianism, fascism, war. The absolute categories of binaries do offer us humans a powerful sense of certainty and safety, but I believe that hard binary belief is by definition flawed, limiting and harmful to believer and non-believer alike. When you reduce the infinite fractal dance of creation to a circle or a line, something vital always gets lost. Whether we're talking about the everyday questions of gender or relationships between humans, or the grand question of our relationship with the universe, no binary can by itself explain the fabulous mess of our human consciousnesses and lives. We are finite beings whose minds and hearts and souls can encompass infinities. So it's the complex, uncertain, risky space between ideal endpoints where we find the elusive middle path. There is a dance, swirls containing and contained within more swirls at every scale, on and on forever. Lucky us, we get to be part of that dance. It is what makes us fully human.
With that infinite interconnectedness, let us sing Blue Boat Home. Low below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, neither harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great wind surging me on, breathe the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
As we prepare to extinguish the chalice, please join me in speaking our shared intention. We extinguish this flame, but we carry the light, love, and commitment of this gathering into the days to come.
I invite you to reach out. Zoomers, we're reaching out to you too. Siblings in creation, take heart. For if you should fear or grieve for the endings of things, nonetheless may you also always rejoice. For to have danced for even a moment is to have always danced. Once alive, we have always been alive. All we have ever been and known and done lives forever within each other and within the dance. Go in peace. Blessed be.